The Pokemon trading card game Pocket was announced during a Pokemon Direct in February of this year and felt at the time like the kind of thing I was sure existed already. There are, of course, other versions of the trading card game that have existed digitally in the past, but I always felt them to be kind of big and bloated and just made for the most, like, hardcore trading card game fans who are out there. The ones who have been around since the 90s and just never stopped. Personally, the feeling that I had a couple of years ago when I tried getting into the trading card game digitally was that I was too late. I was too late to the party already. People had amassed collections that were so huge that I could just never catch up. It just felt like the kind of experience that I could either devote my entire life to or stop at the entrance and turn around and walk the other way, and that's what I chose to do. But the Pokemon trading card game Pocket was intended, at least in their announcement, to be the kind of game that could bring those hardcore fans in, but also introduce the trading card game to an entire generation of new fans. People who were maybe lapsed, like myself, who collected cards in the 90s but never really learned how to play them, or just entirely new groups of people who have nostalgia for Pokemon in some way, shape, or form, but never got into the card game. This is supposed to be a better, more convenient, more easily approachable on-ramp into that scene. They also said that the app at launch would come with collecting, battling, and then eventually trading in a future update. And battling is an interesting note here because the actual rules of the game are kind of arcane to people who only collected the cards, like myself back in the day. But what they said was that they were trying to streamline the rules and the mechanics of the game. The actual paper version of the Pokemon trading card game can have matches that last up to an hour, maybe more. And the idea of shrinking those battles down to a couple minutes at most, I think was a really brilliant idea, but I was really eager to see how they were going to execute that. And when I looked at all those announcements together, I was pretty optimistic about Pokemon Trading Card Game Pocket. I felt like it was the right move in a world where games like Hearthstone and Legends of Runeterra and Marvel Snap have come out and been extremely successful because of the understanding that games made digitally work better digitally than games made for paper work digitally. Magic the Gathering, for example, is a game that I've never gotten into. I have tried. There are a lot of people in my life who really like Magic the Gathering and have tried to get me into Magic the Gathering. When Magic the Gathering Arena came out and launched on like iPad, for example, I dove in. I was like, this is the time. I'm gonna join my friends and get into Magic. I don't want to be one of those people who collects a million cards in real life, but I'm very okay as a person who played a lot of Hearthstone and still plays a lot of Marvel Snap. I was okay with the idea of collecting these cards digitally. What I found was a tutorial that I walked away from feeling like I had no better understanding of how to play the game. It just felt like there were too many mechanics to learn. Again, it felt like I was too late to the party. What's so nice about Pokemon Trading Card Game Pocket is that unlike my experience trying to get into Magic the Gathering and unlike my experience trying to get into the Pokemon Trading Card game digitally previously, it feels like actually the best ever time to get into the Pokemon Trading Card game since like 1996. It's a clean slate for everybody, which is always the best place to start. But even with all of that, I think I found myself to be more cautiously optimistic than actually optimistic. I couldn't figure out if I was actually excited to play this thing or if I was more just fascinated as somebody who like is interested in the games industry. Obviously, this is coming in the wake of Pokemon GO, right? Pokemon GO is this huge breakout success, a literal worldwide phenomenon that caused people to go out in public and play the game, amassing large groups of people in public areas. It was a wild experience to be playing Pokemon GO like that first week or so. And ever since then, it feels like the Pokemon Company and pretty much every other mobile game developer company on Earth was just trying to chase that success. Everyone was trying to make some kind of Pokemon GO in some way, shape, or form. But even that game, I had some like major grievances with. I think the actual roaming around and catching and the community aspect of Pokemon GO was really successful, but the battling was always really weird to me because they changed the mechanics of how battle work entirely. And if this is a game built from the ground up to bring in those people who lapsed from Pokemon as a fandom, who were interested in like the red and blue era, because Pokemon GO only launched with those first 151, bringing them in with a battle system that was completely different than the one they might remember, it just felt very strange. And that inevitably was the reason I ended up bailing long term. Was first of all, the battery drain of actually playing the game was too much, at least for my phone at the time. And B, I just couldn't get into the battling. And without that, I was just catching Pokemon and while that was fun, it wasn't enough to sustain me entirely, to just stick with the app forever. Add on top of that the confusing, predatory, nightmare level of microtransactions they shoved into that game as soon as it became successful, and you have an app I no longer really want to engage with. Similarly, Pokemon Sleep, another app I was excited about, launched in a state that was deeply confusing to me. It was supposed to be an app that would help you sleep and gamify the idea of getting the right amount of sleep on a nightly basis, and ended up being this just like Excel spreadsheet of rules and numbers and nonsense and microtransactions that just made me want to never, ever, ever play it or engage with it. I have a whole video about this.
Now, the Pokemon Company did release a new trailer explaining how Pokemon Sleep works, how you play it, quote unquote, and I'm just gonna play a little bit of it.
The Pokemon Sleep app lets you track your sleep with your smart device and fill up your sleep style decks. Each species has multiple styles. By day, try giving Snorlax berries and making it food and drinks. Feeding Snorlax will increase its strength. If you get lots of sleep, your sleep score will be higher. Your sleep score, multiplied by Snorlax's strength, will decide its drowsy power. More drowsy power means more Pokemon may gather.
So these are all the things I'm anticipating. These are all the things I'm concerned about leading into the release of Pokemon Trading Card Game Pocket. And now it's out, and I have it on my phone, and it's really good. It's really good. I will say right off the bat, the collection aspect is immediately incredible. It feels so good to be collecting Pokemon cards. They absolutely nailed that feeling. They absolutely nailed the joy that you're supposed to experience when you're opening a card. Even just the act of opening packs is really fun. Like, for example, when you're opening a pack, you can flip it around and then open it from the back, so you see the Pokeball, the back of each card, and then you have to flip them over individually. It's little touches like that all over this thing that make it a slam dunk. And every day you're given the opportunity to open 2 packs of cards. Each pack has 5 cards in it, so 10 cards a day. At minimum, you're getting 10 cards a day, which is, stacked up over multiple days, months, years even. That's a lot of free cards that you're getting, and that's nice. Now, obviously, there are ways of getting more than 2 packs of cards a day, and we will talk about that. But as a baseline, it's pretty nice. It's a pretty nice start. On the home screen of the app, there's another way of getting cards, and that's something called Wonder Pick, which I really like, actually. It's an interesting thing where it's encouraging you to add a bunch of friends in the app. You add friends via friend codes. It's very like Nintendo Wii era Nintendo moves. But when you do that, Wonder Pick will populate with a bunch of your friends and 5 random cards from their collection, and you can, I think once or maybe also twice a day, you can pick a friend, see what 5 cards they have, and then they'll flip all the cards over, shuffle them, and you have to pick one, and maybe you get the rare card, maybe you don't, whatever. But at the end of that experience, you get to thank your friend, which gives them one of the many in-game currencies, which is nice. If you're a person who is doing Wonder Pick, always hit thanks. There's no reason to not hit thanks. Even if you get your millionth Caterpie, you should hit thanks. Just give your friend or the rando on the internet the free currency. It does nothing. It does nothing for you to not do it. And it gives them everything if you do. It's nice. It's a nice thing to do. Just be nice. Just be nice. I'm just going to say that in every video. Just be nice. It's so easy to be nice. For those of you out there who are just collecting cards, which I think in this case is probably enough to sustain some people, you're just getting a push notification twice a day, you're seeing what cards you unlock, you're either happy or you wait until tomorrow. It's a pretty smooth sailing experience, I would say. For those of you who are just collecting, though, they also give a bunch of opportunities for you to display your cards, which is really nice. They have binders. They have these like fun little like display cases that you can like attach to your profile. So when people look at your profile, they can see like what card are you the most proud of. It's a lot of really cute little stuff, honestly, that allows you to customize your experience and just kind of like show yourself, show your personality through the app. It's well done, I would say. Also, though, on the flip side of collecting, there's also the battling, which it's also really good. I was really concerned. How do you streamline a game that can go for an hour into something that's only a couple minutes? The answer is exactly the way they did it in this app. It's really It's really something special. I think one of the things they really nailed, and this is not something that should be overlooked in the discussion about it, is that the tutorial is killer. The tutorial is like, I think, 7 to 10 little individual things that you work your way through. Each one just kind of explains one specific aspect of the battle experience, and you walk away from it feeling like, I know exactly what I'm doing. Even when you're done with those tutorials, they unlock like advanced tutorials, and I finished that first tutorial block feeling like I knew already how to do everything in the advanced tutorial section, and then I just jumped into the actual battling and found that I didn't need the advanced tutorials. You should still do them. You get free stuff for doing them. But I didn't feel like I needed them, and I think that just goes to show how strong the tutorial system is. The thing worth mentioning about the battle system is that there's an online and offline version of the battle system. Online battling, from what I understand, based on people on the internet, is that it has a ranking system that is totally whack at the moment. You will have just started the game and then jump into the battle system, and you will go up against somebody who has 20 Mewtwo's in their deck because they're a whale and they spent $100,000 on it already, and you will just get absolutely eviscerated. You'll get bodied by Mewtwo, which I think is a thing for some people. I shouldn't put that in the video. I'm going to put that in the video. But the offline battles is where I have been thriving. The offline battles are these you versus the AI kinds of battles where the AI comes in with a specific kind of deck. So like, I don't know, a flying deck. And they're like, hey, go in and beat this AI. That's cool. But there's a bunch of optional quests along the side that are like, can you put 4 Pokemon in play in one match? Can you use electricity or use electric moves to take out these flying type Pokemon, et cetera, et cetera. And it, again, encourages you to learn more about how the app works and learn more about how to build decks, going in and saying, okay, I'm going to build an electric deck based on the cards that I've unlocked so far. But realistically, and at least in my case, I didn't have a lot of electric cards, and that caused me to, first of all, ideate about what kind of cards I would like to get from some packs I would be opening in the future, but also what can I use the things that I have for? How can I kind of MacGyver my way through the situation? How can I be creative? Which is, in my opinion, the single most important part of any, maybe card game, but as somebody who doesn't have a lot of experience with paper card games, at least the digital card games that I play, I think the creative expression of building decks is like a hugely important piece of it, and this game understands how to push you in that direction and get you to start thinking creatively without even forcing you down that rabbit hole. They're kind of lightly alluding to it, and I think that's a very smart decision. And all of that leads me, of course, to the monetization system, which right out of the gate is just a mess. I understand, but also don't understand why every app like this needs to have 50 in-game currencies, why they need to have a subscription. The subscription in this game allows you to unlock, I think, 1 or 2 more packs a day without needing to spend any additional currency. One of those currencies are called hourglasses, which allow you to speed up the gap in time between when you're opening your 2 packs a day, so that's how you can unlock multiple packs. They're very generous, of course, because the game just launched with those hourglasses right at the beginning. I pretty much immediately got enough hourglasses to open 10 packs at once, which was, let me be clear, a very fun, cathartic experience to open 10 packs at once, but something I am probably never going to be able to do again, knowing how quickly these games ramp up from launch until later in terms of just like how much they have a stranglehold on their currencies after giving them away so freely early on. As a microtransaction-filled nightmare, you know, it is one of those. But as a game that I am choosing to play freely without spending any money, it's really compelling. It's really compelling. And I find that to be both surprising and exciting, and it just also kind of makes me feel nice. After the confusing launch of Pokemon Sleep, and after the things that inevitably got in the way of my enjoyment of Pokemon GO, Pokemon Trading Card Game Pocket feels surprisingly streamlined and seems like the kind of thing I will stay engaged with. That doesn't mean they can't drop the ball eventually. You know, Pokemon GO was the thing that had a very strong launch and eventually grew into something that I kind of loathed. But so far, Trading Card Game Pocket seems kind of like my thing. In the same Pokemon Direct where they announced Pokemon Trading Card Game Pocket, they also announced Pokemon ZA, a new game for the Switch, probably the Switch too, if we're all being honest with ourselves, which is a follow-up to Pokemon Legends Arceus. While Pokemon games tend to have a we and the Pokemon live in harmony, everything is very saccharine approach, Pokemon Legends Arceus, I think, took a really bold approach in setting itself so far back in time that the relationship between people and Pokemon was pretty tenuous. Pokemon could be scary. The relationship needed to mature. They needed to get more comfortable with one another. I thought that was a really interesting idea, and the game asked a lot of really big questions, bigger questions than Pokemon is used to answering. And in this announcement, they said that Legends ZA was going to be set at a time where people in Pokemon were starting to live more in unison, but wanted to live in harmony. The game is set at the beginning of the construction project for Lumoise City, which is the first city in the Pokemon world that's supposed to be built with Pokemon and people in mind. Pokemon and humanity living in harmony in one city that's supposed to exist for both of them. Not just, you know, leaning towards people, but also Pokemon can be here, but a city actually built for both. Once again, I think that that is a bold and interesting idea. It's an interesting time in that lore to explore, and also raises some big questions. And I'm surprised to see the Pokemon Company going after some of those big questions. The Pokemon Company I consider to be a pretty safe enterprise, all things considered. I've said this many times on this very show and other shows, but Pokemon is the largest intellectual property in the world, and it makes a lot of sense for them to just kind of sit on the back foot and just do what works over and over and over again. Pokemon Legends, Arceus, NZA, and Pokemon Trading Card Game Pocket all represent risks. They all represent pretty big risks. Legends Arceus is a new potential future for the mainline Pokemon franchise. We had that and Scarlet and Violet, and there's no world in which those games weren't a testbed to see what people resonated with and what they should continue doing. It seems like they're doing both, which I think is the right choice. But even just committing to doing Legends in the first place, I think was a pretty bold decision. Pokemon Trading Card Game Pocket, similarly, is a fresh start for people to get into the Pokemon Trading Card game. And that means cutting off a huge, very vocal, very dug in player base. There are people who are Pokemon Trading Card Game diehards who have been playing, you know, the old client for years and years and years, and asking them to move to a new thing with an entirely new collection is a big ask. But the Pokemon Company has decided, and I think rightfully, that trying to establish themselves in a new audience and see if they can convince that old audience to come along for the ride is probably the right move. Maybe I'm reading too much into this, but it really feels like the Pokemon Company is starting to, I don't know, shake things up a bit. And that's exciting to see. I've been playing Pokemon since the 90s. I got Pokemon Blue. I played it on my green Game Boy Pocket. And I've been playing the franchise ever since and enjoying the franchise ever since. And I would be lying if I said I didn't feel like it was kind of getting a little bit stale, even for me, even as they shake things up here and there with things like Scarlet and Violet. There's always some kind of asterisk that pulls me away from the franchise or prevents me from finishing the games the way I always used to. But now we're in a situation where they're releasing things like this. And I'm excited to see what else is coming, both for the trading card game, but for Pokemon as a franchise. Anyway, that's it for me. Please like, comment, subscribe if you haven't. You can find me on the internet at wavelengths.online or a bunch of links down in the description if you want to follow me on a bunch of different social media platforms. I'm on Threads, I'm on Blue Sky, I'm on Mastodon. I am not on X, the everything app. You can follow me there. My profile's still there, but I won't be posting anything. All right. Bye, everybody.